I saw my own death certificate, and the man who signed it was the one who once promised to marry me. What would you do if the world believed you were dead, but you were still breathing? That's exactly where this story begins. My name is Amara Ndeke. I'm 29, and 8 months ago, I disappeared. Not kidnapped, not lost. I left. No phone, no forwarding address, no explanations. Just gone. At least, that's the story everyone was told. But here's the part that doesn't make sense. No one came looking for me. Not my friends, not my coworkers, not even my own brother, Lionel, and definitely not Daniel and Becky, my fiancé. Does that sound normal to you? Because it didn't sit right with me either. I had spent those 8 months trying to rebuild quietly in another city, keeping my head down, starting over after a relationship that had become suffocating. Daniel was charming on the outside, successful, respected, the kind of man people trusted instantly. But behind closed doors, control, pressure, decisions made for me. Leaving him wasn't easy, but staying would have been worse. So I vanished, and for a while, it worked, until one simple errand changed everything. I walked into a government office in Douala to renew my national ID. Routine, boring, something you don't even think twice about. I handed over my documents. The clerk typed my name, paused, typed again, then looked up at me like she'd just seen something impossible. "Madam, this person is deceased." I laughed. I actually laughed. Because how else do you respond when someone tells you you're dead? But she didn't laugh back. She turned the screen toward me, and there it was. My name, my photo. Status, deceased. Official. Stamped. Filed. My stomach dropped. I asked her to explain. She hesitated, then said something that made my chest tighten instantly. Death confirmed by next of kin. Next of kin. That means someone close to me didn't just assume I was gone. They made it official. They signed me out of existence. And there are only 2 people who could have done that. Daniel or my brother, Lionel. So now I have a question for you. If someone wanted you erased, what would they gain from it? Because this wasn't a mistake. This was planned. And as I walked out of that office, holding proof with my own death in my shaking hands, I made a decision. I was going back home, back to Yaoundé, back to the people who buried me. I thought I was going there for answers. I had no idea I was walking straight into a life that no longer belonged to me. She died 8 months ago. We buried her. That's the first thing I hear when I step back into Yaoundé. Not whispered, not questioned, said with certainty, like it's a fact everyone agrees on. So let me ask you something. How do you prove you're alive when the entire world already accepted your death? I kept my head down at first, hoodie up, sunglasses on, watching from a distance like a stranger in my own life. Everything looked the same. The same streets I used to walk, the same corner cafe where I spent lazy afternoons, the same apartment building where I built a life I thought was mine. But something felt off. Too normal. Too settled. Like nothing had been interrupted. Like I never existed at all. And then I saw it. My apartment. The lights were on. That stopped me cold, because I never gave anyone my keys. I moved closer, slowly, quietly, and that's when the ground shifted beneath me. A woman walked across the living room. Not just any woman. She was about my height, my build, even her hair was styled like mine, and she wasn't visiting. She was living there, opening my cabinets, sitting on my couch, wearing my life. My heart started pounding so loud I thought she might hear it through the walls. Then came the moment that made everything worse. She picked up her phone and laughed. "I'll be ready when you get here, don't worry." Daniel. My chest tightened instantly. So now I need you to think about this. If your fiancé thought you were dead, why would he replace you? Not move on. Replace. Because that's exactly what this looked like. And it didn't stop there. Over the next few days, I followed them. carefully, quietly, and what I saw didn't make sense. Daniel wasn't grieving, not even close. He was thriving. New car, expensive clothes, business meetings with people I'd never seen before, and always with her, introducing her as me, Amara, like my name was just transferable. But then I heard something that changed everything. Two men talking outside a restaurant. After the insurance cleared, everything changed. Insurance. My pulse spiked, because I had one, a policy Daniel convinced me to sign years ago. At the time, it felt responsible. Now,
It felt like a setup. But here's the part that didn't add up. Insurance doesn't pay without proof, without a body, without a death that can't be questioned. Which means this wasn't just a lie. It was a full operation. A fake death, a replacement, a payout. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I saw someone walk out of Daniel's house. Someone I trusted more than anyone. My brother, Lionel. So now the question isn't if they're involved, it's how deep this goes. What if I was never supposed to come back? That question wouldn't leave my head, because the more I watched, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a lie. It was a system, a carefully built version of reality where I didn't exist anymore. And if I stepped into it too soon, I might not survive it. So I stopped reacting and started thinking. If everyone believed I was dead, then the truth had to be buried somewhere official. Documents, records, paper trails. That's where lies always leave fingerprints. But I couldn't do it alone. So I reached out to the one person I hoped hadn't been pulled into this, Clarice, 28, my closest friend. When she opened the door and saw me, she screamed, not out of fear, out of shock, like she was looking at something impossible. We buried you, she whispered, her voice shaking. Let that sink in. She didn't say, we thought you died. She said, they buried me. I stepped inside, locked the door, and asked her the one question that mattered. Did you see the body? She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. No, it was closed casket, she admitted. They said the accident. It was too bad. Accident? What accident? Because I had never been in one. Now the tension snapped tighter. Closed casket means no confirmation. No one actually saw me, just a story. And people believed it because they trusted the ones telling it. So I pushed further. Who identified the body? Clarice looked down, then said a name that felt like a knife sliding in slow. Lionel, my own brother. He didn't just believe I was dead. He confirmed it, signed it, made it real. At that point, I wasn't just angry. I was shaking, because this wasn't just about money anymore. This was betrayal at the deepest level. We went digging. Funeral records, signatures, dates, and that's when the cracks started showing. The timeline didn't match, the paperwork was rushed, and one detail stood out like a warning sign. Body unrecognizable due to accident. But there was no police report, no hospital record, no trace of any accident involving me. So ask yourself, if there was no accident, then whose body was in that coffin? Because there was a body. There had to be. And that means someone else was buried in my place. Someone who had a life, a name, a story that just ended. And suddenly, this wasn't just fraud. It was something darker, something dangerous. And right when I thought we were getting close to the truth, something else happened. Something that changed everything. On my way back from the records office, I noticed a car. The same car. Twice, 3 times, following me. My calls started dropping, my messages delayed, then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message, no name, no explanation, just 6 words that made my blood run cold. You should have stayed dead. So now the question is, how far are they willing to go to keep me that way? They didn't just steal my life, they erased me. Those words echoed in my head as I realized the truth. Every step I'd taken back home, every careful observation, every quiet surveillance, it all led to one conclusion. Daniel and Lionel had planned this with chilling precision. My disappearance wasn't just a breakup or a mistake. It was a full-blown theft of my existence. I knew I couldn't hide anymore. Not if I wanted to survive this. Not if I wanted my life back. So I started documenting everything. Every piece of evidence, every photo, document, and voice note. Copies went to Clarice, hidden emails, even a few anonymous tips to the authorities. If something happened to me, someone had to know. Then came the boldest move. I decided to confront Lionel first. My own brother, the person I should have been able to trust. I waited outside his apartment until he appeared. Casual as ever. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I walked right up and said his name. He froze. There's nothing like looking into the eyes of someone who betrayed you. At first, he tried denial. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. But I pressed. Evidence laid out, questions sharp and relentless. Slowly, he cracked. At first anger, then excuses, finally silence, and then truth. Daniel approached him months ago, desperate for a solution to financial struggles. They needed my life insurance, my assets. Lionel was told it would just be paperwork, nothing more. But Daniel had taken it further, way further. Not just fake documents, not just the claim. He'd orchestrated a full replacement. That's when I learned the most horrifying detail. The woman living as me wasn't random. She had been carefully chosen, groomed by Daniel, promised a new life in exchange for stepping completely into mine. Identity, house, even my fiancé, everything transferred. Daniel's obsession wasn't just money, it was control. Total control over me, even in my absence. Now I had to confront Daniel. Everything in place. Evidence, witnesses, backups. Police tipped off beforehand, Clarice recording everything, copies of documents in safe hands. Daniel walked into his office thinking it was just another day, but this time it wasn't his world. It was mine. And then the moment came. He saw me, alive, and for the first time the man who thought he could erase me realized he hadn't won. Daniel froze. That smug, intouchable composure he always wore vanished in an instant. His eyes widened, scanning the room, trying to understand how I was standing there, alive, unbroken, undeniable. I stepped forward, slow, deliberate, holding every piece of the puzzle in my hands. The death certificate, funeral records, insurance documents, my brother's confession, the photos, emails, voice notes, every shred of evidence meticulously gathered over weeks. "You buried me while I was still breathing," I said, voice calm but icy. "And you thought no one would notice." The logical payoff, the truth, came crashing down. Daniel had orchestrated everything. The fake death, the insurance claim, the replacement woman. Every step calculated to gain control over my life and my assets. Lionel had helped, believing it would be harmless paperwork, but the reality was far worse, and the woman posing as me had been manipulated into living my life, unknowingly complicit in a crime she didn't fully understand. The police, tipped off beforehand, entered. Daniel tried to argue, deny, and manipulate, but the evidence was airtight. The truth was no longer a rumor or suspicion. It was a fortress of proof. Emotional payoff hit with full force. Relief, validation, shock, and a deep release of anger all collided inside me. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I simply stared. For months, I had been erased, replaced, and betrayed. Now I reclaimed my existence in a single, undeniable moment. Consequence payoff unfolded quickly. Daniel was arrested on multiple charges: fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and potentially homicide for the unclaimed body used to stage my death. Lionel faced imprisonment for his role, pleading guilt and admitting how greed clouded his judgment. The woman who lived as me was taken into protective custody, finally freed from Daniel's manipulation. And the unclaimed body? Identified as an unknown victim, a cruel pawn in Daniel's scheme. Final resolution? Months later, I returned to the government office where it all began. My identity, my life, restored legally. But this time, I didn't return to the old apartment. I didn't seek out the past. I walked forward, quiet, strong, and fully in control of my own story. They tried to erase me, tried to bury me alive in the eyes of the world, tried to replace me with someone else. But I came back, and I rewrote everything. Closure, justice, survival, full life reclaimed, no loose ends.